Hey guys, I'm Phoenix Gray, and this is LitRPG Happy Hour, where I sample LitRPG and alcoholic beverages. Today I have a special guest with me. This is my boyfriend Nate. He's going to help me read. We're going to play Stumbler, where we're going to take a drink every time one of us messes up. Well, I'm going to take a drink when I mess up. He's going to take a drink when he messes up. We're actually going to divide the sample today between us. Today we are going to be reading Desperate Times, Permadeath Book 1 by Matthew Sylvester. And we are drinking this wine. It's from Fiesta Winery. It's called, what is it? It's a Bubbly?
Yes.
I think. I'll put the name in the description. But we are celebrating my, this is kind of like a little mini housewarming for me.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 1, Desperate Measures. Smoke, thick and acrid, hung over the beach as if it were its very own thundercloud. Burning vehicles littered the once white sands, billions of euros going up in smoke. Men and women in the uniforms of the European Combined Armed Forces frantically dug at the sand, carving shell scrapes as quickly as they could whilst the enemy artillery kept up a constant bombardment. Human remains were thrown into the air with bright flashes and geysers of sand. A jet roared along the length of the beach, tracers streaming from it like fat, hungry wasps.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I already screwed up. Their sting was far worse. Anyone hit by them was ripped apart. Limbs and chunks of flesh were blown from their owners, some of whom just disappeared in an explosion of blood and gore. I, Major Ronald Clark, held down the trigger on his rapid pulse support gun. It wasn't a weapon the officers normally used, but in the headlong rush from the shattered remains of Paris, he had been forced to use every weapon in their arsenal.
Twice already?
Yeah. His pulses filled the air, the smell of ozone reaching through his helmet's filters. Unlike most of those shooting at the jet, he led his target, letting it fly into his pulses. Bright flashes indicated hits as his ammo counter showed a rapidly diminishing ammunition supply.
Nothing.
It's okay. There was a puff of metal sparks from the jet just behind the cockpit as the last of his shots stitched their way along the fuselage. There we go again.
That fuselage, though.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a scimitar.
Mm-hmm.
Smoke belched from the fuselage as his shots continued to strike home. The pilot punched the afterburner, trying to clear the beach as quickly as they could in order to get back behind friendly lines. It was a fatal mistake. As soon as the afterburners kicked in, a stream of fire raced along the fuselage to the source of the sparks. A second later, the jet disengaged in an explosion that reduced it to little more than hand-sized chunks of metal. "Nice shot, sir." A hand stopped his back. It was one of the scripts. As the war with the Chincore Republic, I think that was Chinecore, Republic had gone from worse to sheer hell, conscripts, computer constructs, had been hurriedly pressed into service, European countries and companies emptying their coffers to pay for them. Not always the cleverest of best troops. They at least kept the enemy busy enough for the real soldiers to do their best, so I screwed up twice. I'm pretty sure that's Chinecore. That's China, Korea. Excuse me, mister, can you help us? Clark looked down at the source of the voice and the irritating tugging on his combat trouser legs. It was a child, little more than 9 years old. Behind him was a gang of similarly aged children. They all looked malnourished and in poor shape. "How can I help you, son?" He had a soft spot for children, and would never turn down an opportunity to help them. "We've got no one, and that man," the child pointed at a particularly fierce-looking loadmaster, "says that nonsensical civilians should get out of his bloody way and wait for their turn. We've been here for days." The boy's eyes filled with tears, and he let out a heaving sob. "Fine, let's get you onto a hovercraft and out of this hellhole." Reaching down, Clark offered the boy his hand. He grimaced as the boy wiped his snotty nose with the palm of his hand, and then took his.
But who's counting?
"You wait." "Thanks, mister. Tell you what, if we get on, I'll give you this Euros card. I can count up to 1,000, but this has a lot more zeros on it that I've seen before." I didn't mess that up.
Mm-hmm.
Clark stumbled to a halt as he Blink commanded his visor to zoom in on the card in the kid's hand. "Fuck me," he thought. "With that amount of money, we can afford to kit out even the newest recruit with some kick-ass kit." I should have said arse.
Mm-hmm. Arse.
Arse. Thanks, kid. Where did you get it? There was this hover truck a long way over there in the wood by the village. It was blowed up and we used it to sleep in. There were loads of these. Tell you what, I'll get you and your friends onto the hovercraft, said Clark. You keep that card, you'll need it. Don't let anyone take it away from you ever. I'll take some in and get what we can from the truck. Deal, mister. Thanks. We like you. Watch out for the funny-looking bomb that's sticking out of the floor, said the kid with a smile. It always pays to play nice, Clark thought smugly. Jogging over the sand,
I think it's another.
Clark grabbed the loadmaster, who was an even fiercer woman close up, whose voice sounded hoarse from shouting, ordered them to load the kids up onto the hovercraft, and then stood and waved them off as the evacuation craft raced for the safety of Britain. Congratulations on a job well done, I Major. You've had this credited to your mission log. The voice of Command HQ was ever present. Sometimes they would actually offer help on how to approach a mission, but usually they contented themselves with giving half-arsed briefings composed of a lot of supposition and very little actual intelligence. Thanks, I, he coughed, blood covering his visor. His vital signs plummeted. Looking down, he saw the front of his body armor was peeling outward, wisps of smoke rising from the still-hot exit point. The last thing we saw as his vision dimmed was a pulsing orange number 48 turn into a bright red 49. Bullocks. So it's definitely like quick into the action.
Yeah.
Alright, it is your turn.
Incoming! Take cover! Private Stu Hodson dove into the soft sand of the French beach, clawing at it as quickly as he could to gain an extra centimeter of cover. Shells screamed overhead, slamming into the ground, sending sand, vehicle wreckage, and flesh alike spiraling through the air. Stu, I'm hit. I'm fucking hit, screeched Corporal Wando Needsum, clutching at the shattered remains of her legs. Blood pulsed through her frantic heartbeats, staining the sand a sickly red. Snaking over to her on his belly, Hodson snatched a quick-clawed pack out of his backpack, ripped it open, and slapped the contents onto her wound.
Yeah.
Bile rose in his throat. He'd seen some horrendous injuries, but he still wasn't used to such graphic violence. Wanda screamed as the quick clot heated up briefly, the intelligence nanobots cauterizing her veins, stopping the bleeding. The screams died off into a sigh of pleasure. He took the time to plug a jack into one of her armor's ports. Her vital signs popped up on his visor, and he let out a sigh of relief as he saw them stabilize. He blinked at her, setting a nav marker for the medics to come and get her.
I counted 5.
That was 5?
Yeah.
Alright.
But who's counting,
clot.
right?
Quick clot. Quick clot. Say that.
Quick clot, yeah. 5 times fast? Or is it 7 times fast?
Okay, I should take some other drinks though.
Oh, but it's good. This wine is like really good. I actually don't know if they sell this. I don't know. Do they sell Fiesta? I don't know if Fiesta Winery sells in the stores.
We'd ask.
Yeah, I'd have to Google it.
Mm-hmm.
I know some because we got this in a winery in Fredericksburg, and some of the wineries don't sell nationally. So.
Foot and mouth. Got it. Alright. Sorry, Wanda. Standing orders. Fight capable and walking wounded get priority on the evac ships. I've marked your position. He took the hand she lifted, holding it until the drugs kicked in and she blacked out. He checked the squad roster as he feared he was the senior private. Squad 2 on me. Squad commanders down. Rally on my marker. Acknowledge. A chorus of voices replied. Switching to his map view, he watched as the remains of his Squad 2 quickly made their way towards him. Platoon commander, this is Hodson. Squad 2, where do you need us? Over. Nothing but silence greeted him. Platoon commander, come in. Where do you need us? Over. Still nothing. A ball of ice formed in his stomach. Calling up his map again, he marked the platoon HQ's nav marker as an objective.
It's harder than it looks, guys. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Squad 2, forget coming to me. Get to the marker that I've just laid. Expect hostile contacts. Move it. Snatching up his rifle, he sprinted across the sand, the augmented armor, making it easier than it should have been. Skirting around a very large dune, he threw himself down, sliding along in the sand for a meter before coming to a rest. The laser that should have scythed him in half hissed over his head. I threw in an extra word.
You did. That dune was very large.
Mm-hmm. BattleBot. It was a creation born from nightmares. Spikes, hooks, and blades jutted out all over its armor. Weapon mounts on its shoulders, and in its mouth spat lead, lasers, and fire. Its wicked claws snatched a wounded soldier from the sand, then beat the helpless woman against itself, as if it was a flagellant, ripping her to pieces in the cruelly designed armor.
I think that's 2.
2?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm caught up. I'm trying to really pay attention to what's going on at the same time, and I'm thinking of it in my head.
Yeah.
Hodson took his shot without thinking, raking the creatures, for how else could he think of it? Thin legs with pulse shots. Sparks flew, and a piece of armor whipped away into the distance. The monster left the dead soldier hanging from his carapace and charged towards Hodson, each step covering at least 2 meters.
Nope, I think you're good. Yeah, you're good.
Time slowed, Hodson screamed as the bot skipped a step, lifted its rear leg, and kicked at him as if he was a football. The last thing he saw before everything went dark was a red 49.
Yeah, it becomes challenging because you start concentrating so hard on not screwing up.
That's
All
bad.
right. The village was utterly destroyed. If there had been a wall higher than 6 bricks, Captain Sheena Devon would have been surprised. Shells continued to pound the objective as one of her platoon planted a digital flag marker into the ground, a bright orange beam of light marking the position, a warm glow washing over the ruins. We need to hold this objective for at least 5 minutes, people. If we do, we'll be able to get a kinetic strike map to us. Don't let one of those bastards close. As she finished talking, a timer appeared on her visor, showing 10 seconds had already passed. Smoke shells screamed through the air before bursting around their position, chaff exploding into the air in an attempt to dazzle their ground radar. Flipping her visor to IR, Devon swept her scope over the ruins in front of her. Here they come. Estimate platoon strength. Tracer and pulse rounds flew between the opposing forces, the thud, thud, thud of an automatic grenade launcher adding its bass tone to the whoop and of the other weapons. Sound effects, always
Good
fun.
for you.
Tracer and pulse rounds flew between the opposing forces, the thud, thud, thud of an automatic grenade launcher adding its... Oh shit, I just read the whole thing! Wow.
What do you count that as, I wonder?
Yeah, that's just going to be 1.
Okay.
That was a lot, but it was a 1. Damn, I was ready to do them
But it
sound
was
effects
good.
again.
You did good. That was good.
Oh, shit. Alright. Use your grenades. Devon ripped one free from her vest, primed it, then lobbed it at a heavy pulse gun. The enemy returned the favor, and she cursed as one by one her comrades died. Looking at her timer, she saw that they still had 3 minutes to go, an eternity in battle. Recon, get a fucking drone up. She couldn't really afford to lose their last drone as command had informed them that other units were being treated as priority, but nor could she afford to be blind. The drone's feed popped up on her visor and her stomach sank as she saw that the attack in front was a diversion. 3 APCs were rushing up their right flank in order to sweep across the open ground and deploy their infantry right in the midst of her position. Squad 3, switch to anti-tank. Move 30 meters to the right. Form up 90 degrees to my position. Here. She moved her hand, swiping a line onto the map that they would all see. Prepare for APCs and dismounts. She didn't wait for a confirmation. She couldn't. An absolutely huge enemy soldier charged out of the smoke, thrusting his bayonet at her. Parrying with her barrel, she snapped the blade off at the hilt, rammed her own weapon forward, and blew the soldier's brains out. Her kill tally rose by 5. Frowning, she looked down at the remains of the soldier and grimaced when she saw that the soldier was a part of the elite Chine Corps Patriotic Guard. We're up against elites. They must really want this damn position. Fight hard, die hard, she yelled the battle motto of the Willis 5th Infantry. Another enemy soldier appeared, looking away from her. Shooting from the hip, she blasted away his body armor, her pulses cooking his lungs and heart. Then in an instant, he dropped to the floor. Engaging APCs! Team Leader 3 sounded more than a little stressed, and the sound of missiles launching nearly drowned out his message. The drone showed 1 APC destroyed and another immobilized, but the third had already pushed through 3's position. Penetration on our right flank, APC with 20 dismounts. 1 minute, they had 1 minute to hold the position, and then the kinetic strike would be ready. Her platoon was already down to half strength despite having a superior number. She put out a general distress call in the vain hope that another unit might be able to move over to assist. The ground vibrated and the roar of powerful engines reached her through, despite the din of battle. Turning, she saw the APC drive over a foxhole, spinning on the spot until the inhabitants were ground into mince. Its turret spat flame, as did the ports along its flank, pulses and bullets racing through the air in a hunt for flesh. She didn't feel the first round when it hit. Her leg just seemed to not want to support her anymore. The second round she felt as it hit her elbow, blowing the lower part of the limb clean off. Screaming, she stared in horror at the blood jetting from the wound. More pain racked her body as rounds hit her chest. As she fell towards the ground, the last thing she saw as it raced towards her was a red 49.
I fucking hate artillery, thought Bobby Patterson, as he and his friend Martin French cowered at the bottom of their trench. The 236th Mech Infantry had been granted the honor of being made part of the rear guard. Bastard HQ, the 236th had a reputation for getting the job done, and as such was always given the shittiest jobs possible. Down to less than 30% of its combat strength, it had effectively been written off. Shells slammed into the ground, their explosion showering the men with dust and the remains of their comrades. Why won't it just fucking stop? Screamed French, rocking back and forth. It will, mate, it will. Just be ready to kill the cunts as they come. He thought to control his own panic by reassuring his friend, whilst inside his mind he screamed and shit and pissed himself, just like the French. Just like French. So that's 2. I'm going to take 2. 3?
3.
No offense to the French.
It is good wine, though.
Good. As if his words had been prophetic, the shelling stopped with a suddenness that was shocking in itself. Stand to, stand to. The order was loud and clear over their comm units. Leaping up, Patterson flipped the bipod of his light pulse support weapon onto the parapet and snugged the stock into his shoulder. Get the fuck up, Mart. You know if the eye captain hates anyone who won't do their bit.
3.
Oh.
I feel like I get better at reading the more I drink.
Vice versa. Sorry, mate, sorry. French didn't make an effort to stand up, as every member of their team clicked that they were ready to receive the enemy. French's icon stayed very much unready. French, get to position, you sniveling little prick. If I have to come down there, I will blow your fucking cock off and feed it to my dogs. Then I'll shoot you in both kneecaps and wire you to a support weapon. Stand the fuck to.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Patterson didn't wait for French to reply. Bending over, he physically hauled his friend up and shoved him hard against the parapet. Snap out of it, Mart. You can fucking cry after. Checking his map, he saw that French was still showing as unready. The elbow to the back of his friend's helmet drove his faceplate deep into the soft loam of the parapet. Fucking ready yourself, you prick. I'll just drink the rest of my drink.
Alright guys, that was the end of the sample. Again, this is Desperate Times, Permadeath, Book 1 by Matthew Sylvester. If you enjoyed this, I thought it was very fast-paced and interesting. There will be a link in the video description. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, a good week, a good weekend, whatever time it is that you're watching this, and I will see you next time.